Hey everybody, my name is Tim. Welcome back to the Board Gamer Podcast. This episode, notification sound. Not notification sound. This episode, I'm joined by my mom. Say hi.
Hi.
My mom actually is the person that uh, introduced me to video games, taught me how to play video games. First thing I was on was a computer. But just for reference, and I have to say it so don't get all bent out of shape. You are 59 years old this year.
Yes.
Well, it kind of helps with context. You're 59 years old, and you taught me how to play video games.
Me and your brother.
Yeah, but you got me thrown onto a PC first, playing, what was it, Mines? Like, no, I need a guitar for Mines. What was the first thing you showed me how to play? I was in your lap learning how to play something.
Blue's Clues.
Oh, yeah. The first thing was Blue's Clues. It's a Blue's Clues video game. I can't remember what it was. It was...
And there's that haunted mansion game that had math involved in it that you played.
Math involved? I thought that was that, oh, God. It was like a... I don't remember if anybody all remember this one. It was a space one. It was like a space cadet
right.
math game.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you got me started on.
Yeah.
And then it led to consoles. And Mark primarily took me on that one. But you helped with us on some. Like, if we couldn't get them,
Big
you helped us
boss
with
fights came in on a lot.
because we were young. We didn't have the dexterity and the understanding of the intricacies to get it. You helped us out with it.
I don't think it was that as much. It was you guys couldn't quite at first. Once you'd done it a few times and watched me do it a few times, you realize there was always some sort of hidden something
Yeah.
to help you out.
What you hit or how to hit it.
Yeah,
How to
because
maneuver.
after playing Doom for as long as I did, and all the little hidden walls in Doom and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, so many hidden things in Doom.
And that was one of your games you played back in the day on MS-DOS was Doom 1.
Right.
Like the original Doom. Like
The
you
original
played
Doom.
that because you bought the cartridges when you were younger, didn't you? Well, the first one was available free online for everybody.
Actually, my brother installed it directly into my computer when he built my computer. He was a computer programmer, and he built computers.
so you never...
I had him build my first tower, and it was downloaded into it.
So you never... Because I know when... What was it? What was the guy that made those games? Romero? No, that's the horror guy. I can't remember the guy's name. The guy that made Doom. The first one, when the internet was really early, you could go online and download the first level, but after that you had to buy the
I had
discs.
to buy the full thing. Yeah.
So you played it well after all that, and all of them were independently. Your brother just
yeah, it
downloaded
was
all
a
of them.
couple of years, I guess, after maybe not quite that long. I don't know. Things rolled fiercely and progressively for home computers for quite a while.
Okay.
I mean, we went from you would have a computer in a room full of servers that was, to the one that was in your garage,
Right.
and that they built from the garage. But
And just so everyone knows, Mom doesn't like to be on camera. That's why she's not on screen, which doesn't bother me. I don't care. Just so everyone knows, like, why am I talking to someone who's not there? She doesn't like being on screen.
I'm here.
That's why. She's here. So that was that one of your first PC games ever? Was Doom?
Tetris was the first thing I played on PC that I asked him to put on PC for me. And that was the one that I bought used from him to begin with. And then, I'm real good at acquiring hand-me-down computers. Still doing it.
To this day, she has my PS4 Pro.
And now my kids are getting me their hand-me-downs.
And also, the background noise you'll probably be hearing is dogs. There's one chewing on a paper towel roll and one that won't stop licking himself. That one. The one you can see right there. That one. He won't stop licking himself. So, the first thing you ever played that would have, like, been translated over to... Buddy, you're fine. That translated over to video games, would that have been... did you play D&D first, or was it arcade machines?
Oh, God, arcades. I loved arcades. I especially love pinball.
because pinball is a video game now. You can get it as a video game.
But
Pac-Mans are video games now.
Pac-Man, yeah, I played a lot of Pac-Man.
I mean, just recently Pac-Man World came out for Switch. I wasn't a fan of it, but I mean, something that she played in an arcade before video games, before D&D, Pac-Man.
Donkey Kong.
Right, the original one where you
That
actually played Mario trying to get to Donkey Kong. That was the
Yeah.
original. So she played games before they were games, like video games before they were video
Space
games.
Invaders.
Yep, they had those. Did you also play Galaga?
Yes.
So you played all like the OG, very famous, well-known arcade machines before you got
Well,
into
that's all
D&D.
they had, so of course I played that.
So
I was a
what
geek.
what got you into all of that, like all that nerdism stuff, the video games, the comics? Was it comics? Was that the first thing that got you involved? What sparked
Yeah, I guess
that?
that would be my gateway drug. It would be comics.
So that was your
That-
initial like interest in fantasy
Well, no, fantasy now.
books?
Yes.
Okay. So you started the realm of nerdism from like the most basic form, which was novels.
Correct.
And then it became comic books
Yep.
when you found out about them. And then pinball, well, not pinball, but arcade machines. Then into D&D. And
Yep.
D&D has, of course, its very bad history because
Oh, my mother was totally against
God,
it.
you got all the older people that didn't understand them, and then you had
And you
like all
gotta
the churchgoers that didn't
it's
understand
not-
it.
Okay, most people had older, people, their parents, giving them a hard time about it. But my parents were my friends' grandparents' age because my parents had me when they were in their 40s.
Right.
I was an oops.
Yeah.
So most of my friends, their parents were in their early 20s when they had them. So, and then their parents were in their 20s, so my parents were their parents' age.
Right.
But my mother had a real problem with me playing D&D when she found out about it, which I kept it pretty quiet for a couple of years. So by the time she found out about it, it wasn't too much longer. I was 18 anyhow. So.
So she really have a say in it.
Well, I mean, she still did, but then she passed when I was 19, so.
Okay, well, she really have a say in it. Okay, Loki, your tail is trying to beat everything up. You need to stop.
Okay, dogs.
Your tail is hitting the microphone and everything. Just trying to keep it close so it doesn't affect the volume. So, your first console was the one that I showed you earlier, which was the one with Pong pre-installed. Like that was it. It was Pong.
Yeah,
was the only thing
well,
on that
I bought
console.
that off of my brother when he got a bigger one.
And that was, for those who don't know, the first console I released was the Magnavox Odyssey in 1972. And the one that Mom played was actually the second console I've released. And it was the Atari Pong Home, Home Pong. I think it was Pong Home. And that was in 1975. So, Mom really did play games before games and played the second console to ever exist. So, if it now makes sense of why video games are such a big part of my life, is because I was raised by literally one of the original nerds. Like, started out on fantasy novels to comics to arcades to board games. I guess you would count that as a board game? D&D, or would it be just declared a tabletop? Because there wasn't really like life is a board game.
You couldn't just play it.
Yeah, so it was a
Board,
tabletop.
yeah.
So it was one of the original tabletops that's still to this day popularly played. People make money off it. People have electronic versions. There are video games that stemmed off of it.
There's a couple people I played a lot of Risk with too when it first came out. That was fun.
So from
Mostly the people in the like student government, we would sit and do that when we didn't have anything to occupy us otherwise.
that Atari Pong Home, whatever, the 1975 console. Where'd you go from there when it comes to consoles, including PC? Like even include PC into that time frame?
Well, that was prior to graduating high school and then going through various huge steps in life, and that ended up me working like construction for a while, so there was no playing games at that point. It's pretty much
kind of
get up.
had to be an adult and have life.
Yeah, adultness happened.
I never let that get past me.
Got up
Get past me.
first thing in the morning and went straight to work and then worked my butt off and was too tired at the end of the day to do anything but eat, go to bed, do it all over again. So, yeah, until I
So it
had
was a
kids.
Okay, so
Well,
it wasn't
slowed
until
down.
us.
Yeah.
So when and all that did you play Doom? Like when did Doom and like you also played the original Elder Scrolls Arena, didn't you?
Yeah.
Or was it Arena or Daggerfall you started out with?
Arena.
Okay. So where did that all happen? Because
I
that's
played
MS
Arena
DOS.
through like 4 times before. That was-
Morrowind.
Yeah, Morrowind was great.
That's what everyone nowadays knows as consoles, Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo, of course. But no one young now
The
knows
first
what the hell
one I got-
Atari is.
Mark was. What was
My
it?
brother.
Sega, right? No.
Sega Genesis.
Was it a Sega? I don't remember.
The one I have is a Sega Genesis here.
No, it was the one before that we sold. Well, your father wanted to sell to his friend that
I will happily look that up because I don't know.
in
what-
California.
Whoa, I got dark. Sega consoles. I don't think the Dreamcast was
It was
Saturn. Sega Saturn, Sega Dreamcast.
Those the first ones?
Genesis. Here we go. Prior to Genesis was the SG-1000 and the Master System. This is the SG-1000. This is the Master System. That's just
No,
That's the Master System.
no, it wasn't Sega. I don't think it was
Because
Sega. What
that's
was
the-
before Sega?
This is the 16. That's the Mega Drive. Then they made the Genesis in North America. So then it was the Game Gear, which was before it. So, what was around that time? Sega and Nintendo. Dog, would you back up? God, what did
Buddy.
come out? That's Loki's fault.
No, maybe they should go out.
You should go outside.
That would be great.
Okay. So you went into PC when you got back into video games back when you had us. Like is that when you got the computer from your brother with Doom and Arena on it?
I couldn't have a bad ankle from a car accident, so I couldn't be on my feet the last 3 months of pregnancy. I was bored out of my gourd, and my brother was like, "Well, I've got an old computer. You can just use that for a while," and he actually gave it to me to use for a while, which was like unheard of with him. And I played.
Yeah.
I want to say Doom for the longest time.
So Doom while you're pregnant with Mark.
That explains a lot, doesn't it?
So that's so that's what got you back into video games, and then because you had us kids, then you got more into video games over time. The consoles you played were the ones that you bought us,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Yeah,
but
the consoles. See, the ones you bought us. See, the deal is your father decided that your brother had to have one at 18 months of age. Which I was like,
yeah, 18 months of age. That's how you play video
I
games.
don't think that's quite old enough, but I'll try it out for a while
Stop
for
moving
him.
away.
So-
that was probably the NES or something like that before the
Yeah.
Genesis.
I mean, I played that for a while. The game that we were talking about the other day, the caveman kid.
Yeah. Crap.
Son of something.
Yeah. Oh God! It was a Sega game, wasn't it?
Drove me nuts. That kid.
Chuck Rock, Son of Chuck.
Chuck Rocks.
Chuck
yeah.
Rock.
Oh,
That
God.
game Oh God!
I wanted to strangle that little child so many
This.
times.
What do you mean? This is one of the greatest games ever.
Yes, but every time he'd start crying, I want to knock him upside a wall.
Oh, the audio of the Sega Genesis
Oh, it
was horrible. It was one of the worst game audio ever, and then that noise was so. It was ear rape. It was so.
It was
It was pure ear
irritating.
rape. It was. Oh God! What is the word I'm thinking about? It was distorted,
Yes.
like insanely distorted.
Yes, it
and
was
the
like
older it gets more distorted. Because I played not too long ago. Died. I was like, damn, this sounds horrible.
it was like some of the arcade games that I would avoid being anywhere near, which would aggravate me because you never fail. So some of the more aggravating ones they'd have to put right in the middle of all the good ones, you know.
Yeah, well, you have to pass them.
Uh,
They're trying to force you to play them. It's such a terrible game. They gotta have you play.
There's
it.
always
gotta
corners
play
in
it.
little arcade arenas, you know, and you're always ending up with one game in that corner that you would love to unplug for them. And nobody ever played it. It would just do the same annoying noise over and over again. And then you would get some little dweeb that would walk in and would start playing it, and you'd want to knock them both out through the wall.
Because now you gotta listen to it from them playing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you'd be sitting there, you know, playing Space Invaders or Galaga or something like that, you know, and all calm, cool, and collected, you know, blowing away little things, and somebody come in and start playing something really annoying in the back of your ear, and you're like, oh my God. Then it was great because you'd have arcade games at home, you know, and you could start playing your own little games and stuff, and then they'd incorporate some stupid annoying noise like that into the game just to keep you from making a mistake, because you would definitely work hard to not have that child cry
Right.
or not have stupid Kong and its dumb laugh. I hated that laugh.
So
It's an annoying little laugh.
I can't remember. I know it was
It's like, I'm gonna kill you next time. You
let's
won't
see.
be laughing anymore. Oh.
I played. It was the Genesis and the 64, Nintendo 64. Those are the first ones I ever touched, wasn't it?
I think so.
So the Sega Genesis was made in 1998. Good lord, 35.225 million sales. And then we have Nintendo 64, which came out in 1996. Yes, 96. But did we have original PlayStation growing up?
Yeah. Y'all got the benefit of me being basically cheap, I guess, if you want to put it this way, because instead of going out and running out and buying a game, the way that you two were running through them is, you know,
I still run through them. I have GameFly for these reasons.
this is what I'm saying. I rented games for you all. They started renting them in Providence Forge, which was unheard of. You know, we're out here in the middle of the sticks. And,
This is probably why me and Mark played so much growing
Yeah.
up. That we were so well knowledge about video games because we
some
played
folks
so
that
many.
my dad and I knew put this video rental place up, and I was like, you know, you really ought to rent games. And she was like, oh, you think so? And I was like, oh, yes. You know, of course, I'm doing this for myself as well, but
Right. Yeah.
I knew all the kids that your brother knew as well, too.
Yeah.
And there was a plethora of children that, you know, these parents would be just as tickled as I was not to pay $50 back then. You know,
Really?
40 or 50.
Was it that much back in the day?
40 or 50, yeah. I mean,
Wow.
if you got the full blown out, like, versions of everything, but
There were not full blown versions.
I
They
mean-
didn't release.
like you get you get extra content and stuff like for Horizon, you know.
Well, they didn't have DLC back in the day.
Yeah, because it was
That was the full game.
Yeah. So it was $50, 40 or 50, depending on who put it out.
Yeah, which console.
Yeah.
So that's surprising. So back in
But
the
even
90s,
in that, I was paying like $2 for 2-day rentals
And we beat him in 2 days.
Yeah, you'd beat them in 2 days. That's the thing. And I'd be, your brother first started doing that, and I was like, oh my God, Junior, would you please start playing these games slower? And he was like, I can't help it, Mom.
Yeah, that's my thing. I played them at the pace I played them. It's not my fault that I beat them so quickly.
So I was like, well, I'm not spending this kind of money for these games. And then, well, I won't get to play them anymore. And then, then they started renting the videos, and I had them buying video games and renting them too. And then, Junior's best friends, they're twins, and their mom was like, oh, I'm so glad they started playing and buying, offering these for rent. And I'm like, oh yeah, me too, because first they usually get 2 copies, and it never failed that Denise would rent one and I'd rent the other, and the twins were playing it and Junior was playing it all at the same time, and then they'd be done in 2 days, and
go and swap
I'd rent
them
it
out.
for an extra day for you if you wanted to play it too, and then
Of course, I'd beat in a day.
yeah, and
It was just how we
because
played.
you sat and watched your brother
Play it through, so I
so
knew
then
how to
you
get through
knew
it.
all the
So I could do it myself, but I knew how to get through areas that were like, man, that looks like it sucked to try. Let me do it.
so yeah, so there was always a game being rented. But see, that's I guess, like I said, the benefit of me being cheap is you guys got to play a whole lot more games than. I mean, some kids were playing like Forza 50 million times, and you were playing new games every week. So
Yeah. And then when we started playing
then you'd be like, oh, there's nothing to rent. Oh, there'll be something out soon. Whoa, what are we going to do in the meantime? Play something you own.
yeah, play something that we bought. That actually, but that's the problem.
And then
back
when
in the day,
Morrowind came out, it was like, oh my God, you guys were always going back to that, and it was so great, but it was too terrible in the process because I was playing it as well, and was waiting for you to
you get done.
to go through school or what, and go to school or something, or if I had a day off, so I could play the blasted game myself.
So we owned that. We own that.
Oh,
we
yeah.
have that on Xbox. So that
We
was back.
actually
That was
ended
an
up getting
Xbox
a
era.
second copy of it just for that reason.
We do. We have.
I know everybody had their own copy there at one point because we had to.
We have 1 or 2 of the base game, and then we have 1 of the.
And there was Oblivion, and
Well, before Morrowind had. I guess they would have called it DLC back then. Expansions. They had expansions. They had Shivering Isles is Morrowind. They had the expansions, and then we got a copy of them with the game. I think either we have that one or Mark has that one. I can't remember which one. But so one of us owns the one that includes the expansions. But I think we also have the expansions as a separate thing. Like you have to put that in to play them independently.
Oh, it was great when Steam came out, and then you could just
Yeah,
buy
but that was
stuff
way
and
later.
have it
We weren't doing
downloaded
PC
into it.
gaming like that until we were here in this house.
Yeah,
And I
I
was
know.
like in my teens. So for that 12, 13 years before that.
2005.
Okay, so 10 years. It was just consoles.
Yeah.
And even with Steam, I was still going back to GameFly. I started playing GameFly.
And then
GameFly was like, I got that when it first launched. It was like it was like a year in service before I got it because we were seeing ads for it all the time.
Microsoft had which game system first?
Microsoft,
Yeah.
Xbox.
So when they came
Xbox
out,
original.
with the Xbox original, you two were like, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
course.
PlayStation was first.
Yeah, because
Well, PlayStation 1 was first. Then PlayStation 2 came out, and then Xbox finally launched their console because they realized how much of a money-making scheme it was.
I think it was
Sony beat them to it by 2 consoles.
it's the birthday that I did the for your brother, where I did the Mission Impossible invitations on tape. Everybody,
I was very young.
this is your mission if you choose to accept it. Come to
Such
this
a
birthday
cool-
party.
Such a cool idea.
and the cake was shaped like the game system that we bought him with,
The Xbox, the original Xbox.
yeah, with the game
that
cartridge on the top of it, and
Okay, no.
that was PlayStation.
Mm,
Sega, no.
Nintendo 64.
Nintendo 64.
For-
That's what it was in
Yeah,
64.
because Nintendo 64 was where
Yeah.
007 got popular, GoldenEye got popular.
Yes. And,
GoldenEye, that's
what was her name? Perfect Dark.
Joanna Dark.
Joanna Dark.
Joanna Dark. This is the console you're talking about.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, I did that. That is a cake. We even had a controller out there to it.
Where were these when I was growing up? Why did I get these things?
You were part of what we were doing there.
You were there. You got to see the
Well,
cake.
I mean, your brother's birthday was after yours, so, you had yours first, and then...
Yeah. Yeah, because the PlayStation, the original... This is the original, and this is the one we had. We had the squared one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we didn't get this one.
Either
We
y'all
didn't get
had
the
that,
PS
or
one. We'd
Brittany and Tiffany did.
We played the Dreamcast from
Dreamcast from
They
them.
had a
That's
Dreamcast.
right. They had the
They
Dreamcast.
had the
had that
Dreamcast
one-
where
that had
Sonic was the
Echo
biggest.
on there. With
No, Eco, we have that. That's Sega Genesis.
Yeah, but no, it was Dreamcast because it was Tiffany's favorite game.
Dreamcast came out afterwards. They made one for Dreamcast, but Genesis had it first, and Genesis came out first. So we have the older one. Then they made it for Dreamcast again, which looked way better.
Well, they had it on that
Because they
and
had- that was
I
the first open world
loved
Sonic.
that game. That Dolphin game was great.
Yeah, we still have it. I think you can get it on Steam or something.
Can you?
I
Awesome.
swear I've
I'll
seen
have
it
to look
somewhere
for
else.
it.
But the Dreamcast is where I played Sonic, and that was where they had the open world Sonic, and
Oh,
that
God.
blew my mind. Well, no, it just blew my mind. Because
Rings.
you're running through San Francisco. It was open world. You could sprint the streets of San Fran
rings.
and just do whatever. And there's people around. That was like my first experience in an open world game.
That's the thing that's been, I think, that drew all of us in the most was the open world concept through most of the games that we played.
Well,
Because
one of the biggest things Mark's ever played was Morrowind. Like that is one of his. I mean, I'd have to ask, but I think that was one of the biggest things he ever that really got him in, because Morrowind is the closest to a tabletop RPG you can get, because you could hit somebody and it'll just say you missed. The blade could go through them and it says you missed. So it was OG, like a D20 roll. It just luck of the draw if your weapon actually contacts. That had quests. You had to read a book to go find out where it was at, because you have no clue. You had to follow road signs to walk around. So you couldn't
you
just
actually had to
sprint at
listen
it.
to the story that the people were telling you too
Yeah,
to get the information.
it's
So because
a
then
true role playing game.
then it would update your journal, and you'd be able to go from there and find the next leg of the quest.
And say it's in this town in that general direction. So you leave the town in that general direction and follow actual road signs.
And
that
there
you
was
could
also
read.
the different breakdowns, like the guilds that you could get into, and what houses you would be affiliated with, and it was just it was so good.
And you're a big fan
And-
of those games too.
Oh yeah, because that like incorporated D&D mystique into it, and I think that's what they were trying to aim for to begin with when they built those games, was to actually bring it a little bit more alive, because all of the the rogue, the the
Dark Elf,
magicians, the
mages, and Elder Scrolls. It was you were a mage. You could be a mage, an
you could be a
assassin,
good mage or a
warrior.
bad mage, or
Yeah, because they had destruction magic, and then restoration magic, alteration magic, illusion magic.
and all of that would
You'd be a good mage and still use destruction, but back then,
yeah, but you had to use destruction for good, not evil. I mean, because necromancy was a thing, but you actually ran into necromancers in Morrowind, which
Well, alteration magic was necromancy, because you could blast alteration onto a skeleton, you kill it, and then bring it right back to life.
yeah,
And
you
use
make it your minion.
I mean, nowadays you'd use it on a Draugr on Skyrim, and then you have a Draugr that fought with you. So,
Right.
and then pull their weapon back out as long as you didn't take it out. Some people would place a weapon that's really good inside their body, bring them back to life, and then boom, now you have this badass warrior Draugr because it's got your weapon. I don't know if you ever knew you could do that. You could give it inventory. People would actually
Yeah.
because when people run out of space in dungeons, they would just fill it with their stuff.
Exactly.
You'd fill a Draugr, bring it back to town, kill it, loot it, and then walk the loot into town. It was you basically made your own like walking rucksack, but it was a Draugr. You just beat its ass, kill it, bring it, and then put
Give
your
it all
stuff in
stuff
it,
and then so you wouldn't be
make it follow you,
burdened.
over encumbered. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if you could fast travel with them following you.
I don't.
So I think you
No.
had to run it there. But I mean, it's better than walking it there, limping
Right.
it over encumbered.
The best thing was when they came out with after 11/11
Skyrim.
Skyrim.
Yeah,
When they
11/11/11,
came out with
November 11th,
Skyrim.
2011.
We
We did that in the midnight release. That was such a good time.
oh yeah, it was.
I stayed up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, passed out, woke up at like 9 o'clock, kept playing, sitting in my chair, continuing
The
to play the game.
anticipation of
There were so many people there too.
of Skyrim after Morrowind was just it was so
Because everyone was
Ow.
like, what could you do next? Because consoles kept improving.
right because they didn't they didn't have anything like that.
No, it's still one
Fable
of the
touched.
largest. Fable was great, but Fable was very linear in the sense that your worlds were small.
Yeah.
Your area, you had to go from zone to zone. Those zones were pretty compressed. I mean, they didn't have large maps.
No,
The largest was the Academy. The Academy was one of the biggest areas, and that was an intro area. The first town was kind of sizable, but that wasn't much. Fable 2 was the first one that had a big city, and even then, I mean, you could lap that in no time. So they weren't that big. So those places weren't huge. So it wasn't truly open. It was semi-open world, I guess is what you'd call it.
the factions that were involved with the Elder Scrolls. The fact that it was Elder Scrolls to begin with, and I'd played Arena until I was overly done with it. But
I tried Arena, and that is one of the roughest games I've ever experienced.
well, it's
MS-DOS. It's
exactly.
It was based off of just a coding platform for Microsoft. There was nothing to it. I mean, did MS-DOS even have a desktop? And if it did, was it just very simplistic?
Yeah, MS-DOS was on the top. It was the first thing on the desktop was MS-DOS. That's how I learned how to program, was MS-DOS. But build programs.
Don't get too quiet now.
But
You got real quiet. So we kind of bounced all over the place.
the open world concept, though, was what drew us in.
So are we kind of like just casually playing games
Because
between
you're
64?
even that way with Spider-Man games and whatnot. If the
Oh yeah, I mean the current the reason why I like Spider-Man, the newest one that came out to PS4, was just because I could web swing from one side to the other in New York. That was so cool. Nothing else. That game could have not been the greatest thing ever, and it's declared a 10 out of 10 from a lot of people. I just loved it because I could web swing from point to point. That just around the world was great. Like I could web swing all the way out into the ocean if I wanted to, if I could get enough of a jump in energy.
the game where you can get the shots and bring like animal attributes into your body so you can
Far Cry.
Far Cry.
Well, Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 had 3 trees.
There's a lot of open world in that too.
Well, Far Cry 3 you could just jump from island to island, but that one, Far Cry 3 had the animals because you had 3 skill trees. It was like a tiger or a leopard or something, and then like an eagle, and then a snake, and they all had their different purposes. One was stealth, one was combat, one was
I mean, I know that most video games you can
Buffs.
go here, go there, and whatnot along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can actually go here and go there, and whatnot along the way, and find different little side things that you can do on top of it, like Red Dead or Horizon, or
That's why I like
all that kind of stuff. That's the reason
that's why
why.
I like Ubisoft games so much.
Yeah, that's the reason why those games have always been so popular
Mm-hmm.
because it's not just, follow this to go to here, to go to there, to go to there, and you're done.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's why I like Ubisoft games so much. People give so much hell to Assassin's Creed and Far Cry for being, for the most part, the same game all the time. But you got to think that there's a huge interest in those games where you can go anywhere, do anything, collect anything, see anything. You'll encounter things all the way to the mission itself. Like, that's fun. You can stop and just stare at the scenery if you want to on towers. It's cool.
Oh, I don't
They're
know how
good.
many times I've sat on the end of a dock and just watched. In Skyrim, where you've got the little house and the little...
Solitude? No.
The
house.
place where's got the river.
Oh, Riften.
Riften.
Because there was a house right off.
I've
right
sat
off
there
the-
and watched the sun come up and go down. I actually, wasted 20 minutes of my time
watching the time change.
watching the time change in the
And
game.
then the dock is where they had like the underside, and then people would walk around the market around top of it.
Yeah.
But the one thing that did bother me is they never actually had ships coming into port or anything anywhere. Like Solitude had an actual port for like that's where the East Indian Trading Company equivalent to in Skyrim was, and they didn't have actual like ships coming into port. They never did that. They never actually showed ships coming in. Like you just the same boats were there throughout the entire game. I wish they actually had that. That would have made it a little more realistic, I guess.
Well, that was more of
But
a
I guess the
river
game was in
dock
the-
type area, not as much of
Yeah.
a sea dock.
Well, no, the
Type
one for
area.
Solitude was because the one from Solitude
Solitude,
was
yes,
north.
is sea.
But also that country was in a civil war, so I guess they didn't want bringing supplies and docking when there's a war going. But Solitude is also where they had the Imperial Army at, so I'm really surprised they didn't have ships coming in and bringing supplies. You never saw anything sail in.
Freaking Imperials.
Yeah. Stormcloak. That'll be something we'll keep arguing about for the rest of our lives.
It's kinda like Batman
Mom is
and
the only
Superman.
one out of me, my brother, all my friends. Mom's the only one that supports the Stormcloaks. The
Such a
only
rebel.
one. Huh?
I'm such a rebel.
She's the only one. And the reasoning is like so not okay. Because if you look at it, they
Don't
sacrifice.
start this argument now.
They
I'll walk off.
sacrificed. I'm always right. Everyone who understands the argument between Imperials and Stormcloaks,
Not.
it made a lot of logical sense to support the Imperials.
Whatever.
False king. Anyways,
Darth Vader.
I love that Skyrim on PC got so big because the modding community was hilarious. Because my current Skyrim save, I have a lightsaber. I love it so much because you find a guy on the ground that shows you like the book to how to make them, and he has a lightsaber in hand, and you can take it. You have the single-handed and the dual-handed, and he's an initiate, and it shows like you have a Jedi initiate or Jedi apprentice saber. So you have like you get lightsaber. It's so cool. The modding community is insane. I'm so glad they finally announced they're working on the new one though, because I'm kind of getting tired of them making Skyrim Edition 1000 like. Everyone's waiting for. I mean, it's on. I think either someone modded it or it's a joke. But I think someone put it on the Samsung tablet on the fridge.
They're supposed to go to
I think it's elsewhere.
Is that where it is? Yeah, that's right.
Elsewhere, or it's where is it Redfall where the Red Guard come from?
Redfall is where the Red Guard is.
It's either Redfall or it's elsewhere. I know we had a mod for I think elsewhere, wherever the Khajiit live. I think that's elsewhere. We have that mod.
The Khajiit.
The Khajiit.
Gotta love the Khajiit.
The Khajiit are in third person. Khajiit has fine wares. Yes, you do have fine wares. Yes, Khajiit do. Oh God.
Every time when
Always in a third person
I
perspective.
always think of Misa so sorry.
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks whenever I see a Khajiit.
Big Gooba fish. Big Gooba fish. Larger teeth. I swear he sounds like loser teeth. It's larger. He says larger, but he says loser teeth. And I don't understand how that is larger. But what was their species? All I remember is Jar Jar and whatever the Gungans.
Yeah.
The Gungans, that's what they were. They were a great species. I really still believe to this day that they just hid the fact that he's a Sith Lord.
And that's another thing, you guys were encouraged to like Star Wars and Star Trek and
I mean,
comic books. And
if I ever could do it one day, to pan my room is
Other
it's
peop-
just...
other people were like, "Oh, my kid's involved in blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Oh, buy him another video game."
If I could... I bought mine a video game today. Disappointment all around. If I could pan my room with my webcam, it is Virgin Central. So, like, I have DS games, Switch games, no, Nintendo DS, Nintendo DS 3D, Switch games, board games, my DS, PS4, PS5 games,
It's not just you. Your
Buff
brother has
Pokemon,
a
whole room.
display area.
Yeah, I have almost 3 shelves here full of pops. 3 shelves full of pops
So is your
there.
brother.
This small one.
He
These
says
are
collectibles.
glowing. These are light up Star Wars
The
models.
geek is strong with my children.
That is a massive pop of Cthulhu, and that is a ground pup. And I have a
Where's the big Batman at?
the big Batman over there,
Oh, yeah.
right on top underneath the horror mask. I have those over there. I have the big.
It's great. You always know you can buy your kid something for Christmas that he doesn't expect, as long as he gives you his pop list.
It's hard to do now. I got 400 something on there. And that's me cutting it down. I did cut it down. I need to look through it one more time. I think that's cut down. I removed a lot of franchises. I got everything from Godfather because I got the new Godfather one. So, how has it been about there in time? But how has it been seeing what you played before with Doom on PC to seeing what you have now, seeing the games I play now? Like, how is, if you could like really like
Watching
introspectively like the
The
dramatic
New
changes.
Horizon that came out, it's just, I was sitting there just watching you play that because I have to play the original one back over again. For
We're not
some
talking
reason
about
or
that.
Another.
I'm not talking about that. I transferred her data over wrong and wiped her file.
But that's okay. I get to play it again. No big deal.
As long as she doesn't have like a library of games you can play. Plus, we
This
game
is-
share, so she has my entirety from PlayStation Plus, from all of the monthlies, from the collection. She has so much to play. So she's like that pro. As long as nothing happens to it, she has games to play for years.
As long as my hands cooperate.
Yeah.
But
Again, we talked about you're 59. You got me in video games when you were, very young. That blows all my friends' minds. Like, your mom plays video games. Like, my mom played the first, the second ever console that ever existed.
Pong.
Yeah,
I
an
got
Atari.
really
The first
good at
Atari, I do
Pong.
believe, is the first Atari. Yeah, because it's the second home console ever made. So this is the first Atari. They only made a Pong.
Insanely good at Pong, and then really good at Tetris. And so when Minesweeper came out for a stupid game for the computer, I would aggravate everyone I knew by actually winning.
I've won a few times.
And they would be like, how? It's just, random. And
No, it's not.
And you're like, no,
It's math.
it's there's actually a rhythm there. You just
Yeah.
have to find it.
There's a science to that game.
But
yeah, how has it been like seeing what you had back then to now? Like,
just
imagine, because I've played Arena, then God plays Skyrim. I'm like, oh my god! Like, just for me, it's just nothing. But
the realism in the graphics now it's striking. It's just amazing that what they can do. I mean, when you watch the evolution of the computer go from a room with servers in it to what a little tiny thing can do now.
I mean, this is just a big case. I can shrink this down.
I know.
My computer case is it's a full tower because I wanted the airspace. I do not need this size. This could be significantly smaller. It could fit in my console if I wanted to.
But
I mean, this is a computer.
And our phones are.
Yeah.
And it just,
Which can run a small version of Elder Scrolls Blades.
even that, your phones now with the little stupid mobile games that I'm stuck on. But
You gotta have something. Hands don't work, so.
yeah, I mean, I have horrible arthritis. There's got to be something I can play when I can't hang on to a controller.
I mean, you mentioned it. You did construction and everything. Like, you did hard labor jobs from when you were young to when you had us. I mean, you
Plus,
still
I
kind of
was
did.
raised by people that were in the Depression, so I've been growing vegetables and working on stuff and building my own since I was old enough to pick up a hammer and dig a hole. So
So would you say, like, would you say kids nowadays will not understand, like, just how far it's really come and just how amazing
see, that's
it is?
the thing. They'll pick up their phone and they'll start playing this or looking at that, and it doesn't even face them one bit about what we had to go through for them to be able to get there, because programming on MS-DOS was a book, man. You had to know exactly what you were doing.
Like, you saw me play a bit of Cyberpunk, didn't you? When I had
Yeah.
that, when I came out last year. Okay, so the game wasn't perfect. It had its issues. I had to run it kind of low on graphics, but still, it looked good, and it ran nice. Like, I enjoyed it. I didn't have much issues with it, and it did look good. Like, even when you looked at it, it still looked good. Not the greatest in the world, but graphically,
Wasn't bad.
yeah. What blows my mind is, though, you have games that come out, and nowadays, if it doesn't look damn near photorealistic, it was like, oh, it doesn't look, as good as I'd hoped it would. Like,
But
okay.
is the gameplay good? I mean, are the
Yes.
controls perfect?
Thank you.
The fluidity, is it acceptable? Can you just... Oh, you guys
That's the
don't
thing.
have a clue.
No,
what
that's the
we
thing I
went
don't
through.
understand is because me and Mark played Sega Genesis, Dreamcast, Nintendo 64. We played the first PlayStation, the first Xbox. We have, and I think he's even played Arena and Daggerfall, and I've played Arena and Daggerfall. I played the original Fallout that came out way back when it was a tile game, and you had random encounters. When you clicked a tile, you're going to get involved with a rat. Which you could die from because the game was a random chance of attack. You had to have a good hit chance. So, seeing those games and coming to this now, like, when people say, like, well, this game doesn't look that great, neither did Minecraft. It's the biggest game of all time.
Oh, God, I love Minecraft.
Everyone's like, well, that game was designed that way. Exactly. Stardew Valley is also one of the biggest games of all time, especially in the indie scene, and is one of the most
That's a great
beloved games made by one guy on a 16-bit graphic system. That is one of the most popular games of all time.
Concerned
Graphics mean... yeah, seriously, I'm so excited. Apparently he's doing a new update for Stardew. He's releasing 1.06. I guess he's got something new for it. But what blows my mind is that people nowadays, especially... I mean, I hate to say it, make me sound old, but kids nowadays really don't get, like... You got... Like, these kids grow up playing Fortnite. They grew up playing Fortnite. I grew up playing... I grew up playing original Zelda and Sonic and... that what is that monstrous game? I played Earthworm Jim on Sega Genesis. Like, I played classic old school stuff. Compared to what they got now, they're lucky they came into the age where graphics are kind of plateauing. They're not going to get that much bigger. The next thing would be what Ready Player One is. That's the next evolution. Is just almost realistic. You are in full body controlled VR. Like, there's nothing more you can do. Graphically, it's hard.
VR is just...
We're just cracking the surface of that.
We were like...
That had to have been like a mind-blowing thing when you first saw an announcement of VR.
No, see, but that was the thing. That was a comic book thing,
Yeah.
Now
it's not.
Now it's not.
And now I'm playing in the front room and you're watching me just walk through and realistically...
Or like the
grab guns and
hoverboard
shoot.
from Back to the Future,
Yeah. I mean, not to the extent that it was, but I mean, there are people out there that some tech companies who have developed a hoverboard.
I know.
Jetpack suits like Rocketeer.
Yeah.
I mean...
Right?
An old classic movie that not many people know these days. I mean, the things of back in the day that were like, oh, that'll
But
never
see,
happen.
that was a comic book thing too before it
Yeah,
was.
Rocketeer before it was a movie. But they don't understand like how how lucky they have it to where they get to be in this age. Now it's kind of disappointing. It's also a disadvantage because they didn't grow up like you, where you got to see it from nothing to something, and I got to see it from just starting to something. And now I'm lucky that I'm in the already in that early mindset. I know that late mindset that games aren't going to look much better than what they are now. It is going to be very hard. Like now, it's just lighting. There was one podcast I was listening to, and their biggest thing was, from console to console, what is the big push for the new console now? Lighting. That's all they have now. Like ray tracing, lighting, making things reflect properly, making metal shine, and glass actually have reflections, and water have reflections, how light bounces off it. Like, that's it. You can't really advance past that anymore. You need almost realistic, almost lifelike graphics to be new.
And then what is the gameplay going to end up if all they're worried about is what it looks like?
Not great. They want the game to look pretty. I'm like, okay, well, that's, what's after that? Like when oh god, what's it called? Oh my god. Something Sky. Space game just came out recently. I can't remember what the name of it is, but this game came out. Everyone was so hyped up about it, and there was this idea of endless space. You could fly around, do whatever. It looked beautiful, but there was nothing to it. The game was very empty. It's now filled. There's so much to it now. But that's kind of that realm of... It's not the perfect example, but it's in the realm of... The game looks beautiful, but what is there? Like Sonic Frontier. It looks pretty. It's empty. There's not much there. Because if you filled the world, is the game going to even be able to function with the graphics it's putting out? So I think we're kind of in this era now where it's just gameplay, functionality needs to be the focus. I mean, in the age of advancing graphics, Stardew got popular and became one of the best-selling games on Steam. You don't need a pretty game to be good. How Roblox is this cheap, stupid game that kids love to play. It looks atrocious, but it's like Gary's Mod, basically. It's empty, but what it has is great. That ability to create whatever game modes you want, it's great.
The things that are coming out of people's heads that, they're building these games. I mean, some of it's like, rote. But when they come out with the ones that are so different,
unique,
with things that you would have never thought of,
Yeah.
And it all comes back to all of it. It requires imagination, no matter what, and that's what I always tried to, push with you guys, was your imagination is, you need to feed it, do things with it. That's why I wanted you to be able to play video games and read, and look at comic books, and
Yeah, I got a crate of those.
And
I have a crate of building up of those.
And just all the things that will spark your imagination. That's why I put you through STEM in school.
And that's why I wish this whole idea in the world nowadays, like, oh, you should put that stuff down and grow up and get a real job, like, and let your imagination die, basically.
But see,
some of the most incredible things are coming out from video games because of imagination.
Look at,
movies.
If it wasn't for Stan Lee and his imagination, where would we be?
Kids wouldn't have
any Marvel.
Kids wouldn't have Marvel. We wouldn't have comics the way we do.
Of course, nowadays it's maybe not such a great thing. Back in the day, when Marvel was great, but just, hey, you know, if your kid's in there playing a video game and happy and tickled and enjoying his life and whatnot, don't grab him off of it and oh, you need to go outside for a while. They'll go outside. Mine went outside whenever they got tired of playing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I now do daily. I have chores outside I do, and I enjoy doing them. I just come back in and play video games when I can.
it's
We're not going to just become cave dwellers. I mean,
if
we're not going to be sitting in a dungeon eating Doritos with, you know.
they're at your house and you in their room playing their video game, or even if you have a game room or whatnot. That's what I tried to centrally locate the computer so I could talk to them while they're playing and whatnot, or help them out. One time I go into the kid's room to help him out with a boss fight and almost set the house on fire. So, you know, should have turned everything off in the kitchen, but didn't realize it was going to be there as long as I was. But nevertheless, I mean, at least they're not doing something wrong when they're playing video games.
I think my favorite memes ever was like,
Can't afford drugs if you're buying video games.
Be happy I'm interested in video games, Mom. I could be smoking crack. I mean, you could be in a way worse hobby, so be happy in video games.
Or doing something really bad, or, you know, creating new life somewhere that they would have to take care of.
Yeah. You can't afford
exactly.
You can't afford things now. Imagine what's like when you have a child you didn't expect. So I think people should be happy when their child is into video games, because I mean, especially nowadays with modern technology, YouTubers, podcasters, streamers, like even game developers come from kids who were super into video games when they were younger. There's a career in that, and if they love that much. I grew up
playing as much as I could, and I can still grow a vegetable garden and can everything that comes out of it and put it up for my family to eat off of, and fix good meals to come out for them to eat and whatnot. So
I can help me plant, I can tend to a yard, I can fix a car, I can
exactly.
I can build gates.
It's not like you can't do something just because
spend so much time on video games.
You know, and there's just a horrible connotation these days with user gamer.
Well, not anymore, and that's what's annoying me now is that people are so like, even like the popular kids and the jocks are now playing video games. Like, you used to hate us growing up. Why are y'all now into this shit now? Like, honestly, some people are like, y'all are allowed to play video games because you hated us for playing games. You thought we were losers playing video games.
Well,
and now y'all are getting...
Maybe they'll soften up around the edges a little bit, you know?
If ever.
Whatever.
Bullying's still a thing. Not as problem as it used to be.
Right?
But I'm glad it's becoming more mainstream, but it is only after nerds were trashed on for decades.
Oh, yeah.
For daring
years
to be
years
nerds.
And years and years.
Now it's the most mainstream thing to do.
Pocket protectors were a big funny. But, you know, we didn't
now
have
it's the best way to hold your Switch. Now I got all my Game Boy in it.
We didn't have any ink in our pockets, but, you know.
It's interesting to see the growth. And, I mean, for me to be able to open up an MS-DOS box and play Arena now and then turn over and then start playing Horizon Forbidden West, it is night and day. It doesn't even begin to explain how much of a change it is. It is insane. And it's... But I think it's plateaued. Yeah, but I think it's plateaued. I think we're not going to see much of an improvement anymore. I think it's going to be very difficult to see a graphical change now.
Well, as long as there's still people out there with enough imagination to build a new game.
I think now the issue is computer capabilities.
I mean, Notch came out of nowhere with Minecraft.
Yeah, no, he was a random Swede that was just like, I want to make this. And then Stardew, Michael Barron, out of nowhere, just, I'm going to make this. Not Michael Barron. Concerned Abe. Whatever his first name is. I know Barron or Barone is his last name, but he came out of nowhere and he was like, I'm going to make this because this franchise has kind of gone to hell. And it had. I mean, who the hell is still playing Harvest Moon and stuff? Who's playing Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons anymore?
Such a good game.
Yeah, my favorite one was Back. My favorite one was Back to Nature. Was the first one I played on PlayStation 1. That was the best one.
That was really
Because it
good
was
for
so
kids
simple.
to remember too, because you had to remember what this person liked and what this person didn't like, and
Growth patterns.
and their birthdays, and you know,
Crop growth
there
seasons,
was-
patterns,
yeah.
rotations, weathering, how to deal with the watering,
exactly
animals. how to
all
tend-
of that. That was
how to
all,
tend to
you know, problem solving. You and see, people don't see it like that, but maybe now they do. But at first they weren't. They weren't catching all that, and there was
Nowadays,
so
they were
much
trying
more
to-
to it than just, you know, blow them up and shoot them up. So although those are really good games, and you know, I don't fault them a bit. Perfect Dark was great.
No, shooters had its place too, because shooters created hand-eye coordination and it kept your mind sharp because you had to be aware of your
Yeah,
surroundings.
you had to be seriously aware of your surroundings.
So
and
people
you had
say,
to-
like, you know, there's no
you
purpose
had to
of
be
them.
able
There's a
to
purpose for
tell
every game.
difference in shading and whatnot, whether or not, like, my favorite game to fall into a hole, what was it? Red Faction.
Red Faction.
I would find every hole on the map. If they
They
said,
literally had a map that was
Leoness fell to her death. Oh yes, Mom fell.
There's literally
Mom found a new hole.
there's literally a map in Red Faction 2 where it was nothing but platforms and a black void of space.
And yeah, that was
That
the
was
one
the
they always
difficulty.
wanted to play, because that was the first way to get rid of Mom.
Well,
Mom
no.
was cannon fodder, though. Especially in Halo. Mom was serious cannon fodder in Halo.
We liked that map.
Till Mom actually got the cannon.
We liked that. You got the tank. We liked that map in Red Faction 2 so much because it was.
Don't let her near the tank.
You had to be able to manage your footing while also shooting, and if you couldn't do both, you were going to win the match. So you had to be the better overall player to beat that map and to take out the others. So it was.
I have
It
some
was
sort
always
of
competition between us.
a brick wall between me and that definition of void. Just
You just want to fall into it.
yeah. Oh, look a hole, my friend. Let
wanna
me
jump
embrace
in.
you.
Yeah, that one hole looks sick, dog. And jump right in.
Oh, look, another hole.
Said at that meme of Dave Chappelle looks like crackhead. He's scratching his neck and he's like, "Hey, you got any holes in these games? I will find them."
For real.
There's like a Halo map where it had like the smallest, right in the dead center. There was a hole, and you just walk it off one time,
every
and you would be
damn
like,
time.
and we would start laughing. You're like, "It's not funny,"
Nuts.
and you'd be like, "It's not funny." We're like, "It kind of is because
that-
that's the only hole in the game," and you're like,
Yeah.
"Of course I find it."
Or, hey, Mom, if you go over there, you know, you've got one of those where you step into it and it'll shoot you out.
Yeah.
And you,
Something
there's a hole
cannons.
right beside it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you guys told me about it just so I would step into the hole. I really did. It's like y'all wanted to get rid of me, didn't you?
Yeah.
No, but it was funny.
You fell through it, so yeah. It did its job.
We directed you to the only hole on the map, Mom. And look, you found it.
But I'm glad that you got.
But the tanks wouldn't go in the holes. Ha ha ha.
No, no, they did not. But I'm glad that you got.
You wish
into,
they
but we're an hour and 3 minutes, so I'm glad you got into video games because I love them. I mean, as much as people are like, "Oh, you're wasting your time on it," like, no, because it's enjoyable. I find fascination and satisfaction from playing them, especially just completion them. Like it brings me joy. And I have a massive backlog. I'm like, oh my god, I got so many games playing. People are like, oh, you know, you don't have to play them. Well, yeah, dude.
You're welcome.
I'm into them so much. I mean, I have, like, that shelf right there is nothing but Sony and then Spyro and then Crash Bandicoot. That's Pokemon, that's Cyberpunk. Look, there's Fallout. I love video games.
Fallout's a great game.
Fallout is a great game. The newest one sucks. 3 is the best. New Vegas is perceived as the best. I prefer 3. I just like Washington, D.C. But I love video games. And it's cool that you raised me to get into them as much as you did. And the fact that you have such a history of going from what predates and inspired them to what they are now. That's cool.
It inspired other interests for you guys too. I mean, you both were into music
Mm-hmm.
to a certain extent,
Mhm.
like I was. everything,
Reading, writing.
reading and writing.
All I do is write fantasy and sci-fi.
Everything is interconnected, and it all starts out with your imagination. If you don't feed your imagination, it's not going to grow.
And I play games of all varieties. I mean, they're kind of similar in a way, but I play a variety. It keeps me entertained to play such a variety.
Where my imagination was nothing but, playing dominoes and washers, which is a Alabama game. And you guys, if you don't know, what washers are, you take two big washers, like the size of the palm of your hand, you scoop out a hole in the ground, one on either end, and then you throw washers. It's kind of like horseshoes, but with washers and holes.
So instead of trying to get a horseshoe around a bar, you're trying to get
Yeah,
a washer into a hole.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a game.
That's a game.
I
That's
didn't
the
even know
kind of
that.
stuff that I grew up with. Yeah, man. Washers were great. Ask your cousin Kim. Or being chased out in fields by cows and bulls and feeding chickens. And, that's how I grew up. Before video games. Before comic books. I had a great big huge monstrous comic book collection. And
Your
then,
mom sold them
yeah, I was
in a yard sale. I think.
in college and they were packing up the house. And next thing I knew, we sold them.
And the dogs won.
Dogs went in.
Oh,
All right.
well. I'm gonna end that. Thanks, Mom, for taking the time to sit in here with me. I know it's not the most comfortable thing. I do want to do another one with you in the future, and that one's going to be on movies and TV shows, because we watch a lot of movies and TV shows. On top of video games, we consume a lot of media in the form of TV and movie. And I think because we've seen so much, we have a pretty good opinion that beats a lot of things like Rotten Tomato
Oh, God.
and IMDb. They have the worst
Don't get
opinions.
me started.
We will go over and I'll pull them up and I'll do even a screen recording for them for this one. I pulled up what they considered the top 10 worst and top 10 best. They're so far off. It is mind blowing what they would put in the bottom. The bottom 100 is exhaustingly aggravating. I couldn't just understand how some of those movies got that far, and they should have been mid-tier film, mid-tier show. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. I will be probably doing a solo one next week just to discuss some topics in the franchise and in the industry. But thank you all again, and I'll see you all next one.